Today I got a call from a person that I've been doing business with, and after we talked about the business issues at hand, we continued talking, and it became a really fascinating conversation that went on for probably a couple hours. It was a little bit annoying that it went so long, but the fascinating thing to me was to see how different his perceptions of reality were from mine based on the media and the life experiences that he was exposed to versus me. And it got me thinking, our nature of reality is really, our perception of reality is very much shaped by the media that we consume. Hi, welcome back to the Colorblind Architect Podcast. I'm your host, David, and I've noticed a few more people signing up with their subscriptions on Rumble. Thank you, and I'm excited to have you here. Hopefully I don't disappoint you, but I probably already have. I mean, just look at how nappy my hair is today. Anyways, the whole topic that I started out with in the introduction was about the nature of reality and the perception of reality. And the reason why this is an important topic for me is I am fascinated by the fact that you can actually have two different people. They can be having a conversation, and their perceptions, their framing of facts and their framing of the world is very much shaped by the experiences that they've had and the intellectual content that they've come across. And so, for example, I've been exposed to, right-wing thinking or conservative thinking my whole life. I grew up in a Republican home, and so it's pretty obvious to understand why I would have a lot of the intellectual biases that I may have. And with that said, I try to counter that by questioning everything. But it is interesting that everybody has that. People on the left have the same thing. They come across various issues, various topics, and they'll see it through a particular color set of lenses that frame reality. And it does make it difficult for a lot of people to be able to communicate on the same intellectual language. And by intellectual language, what I mean is on the right and on the left, people have different keywords, phrases, concepts that are commonly spoken amongst. So, for example, a conservative to another conservative, there's a lot of these things that we just all know what the other one is saying, right? Same thing on the left. There's these things that there's this common culture, this common conversation that is being had that's not being had with the other side. And as a result, when somebody from the left and somebody from the right get talking to one another, they don't actually understand each other on the same level. And the reason why is because they have different meanings for the different words that they're saying. This is a problem. So back to the conversation that I mentioned in the introduction. This was a 2-hour phone conversation. It was a really fascinating conversation, and we actually came to agree on most everything that we talked about, at least in terms of the commonalities and the things that we could get along with on. And it was pretty obvious that he was more of a left-leaning guy. It's pretty obvious that I'm more of a right-leaning guy, but we get along. We have good conversations. And it's because we come to each other in a spirit of wanting to know what the other one's thinking and honestly seeking out truth. So, just a second. So, why do I bring this up? I bring this up because I think we have a dysfunctional conversation occurring here in the United States in recent months, possibly recent years. Increasingly, the left and the right are getting further and further apart, and I don't necessarily think that it is entirely the way that the news media is portraying it. I think the news media portrays it as the right wing becoming radicalized towards white nationalism and white supremacy, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Every single conservative I know actually abhors the idea of anybody ever saying that white people are superior to minorities, to black people, to brown people, whatever it is you want to call it. Every conservative that I know is somebody who strives as much as they can to treat other people with equality and respect. And it's something that I thought that everybody was trying to do. I thought that was kind of the whole American ethos, especially, ever since Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech. I thought that was kind of the whole idea. I thought we were kind of all on the same page, that we agreed on that. Now, it's fascinating to see, and, especially as I look at various social media sites and I look at what may or may not happen on various sites, it's fascinating to me how some people, they still have that element of hate in them. And it's really sad, because we really should love each other as individuals. We shouldn't be worried about what tribe the other person is in. We all kind of have tribes. Social media has done this to us. Social media, the great thing about social media is that we're able to find like-minded individuals, people that we get along with, people who have shared interests. And as a result, we're able to connect across geographic boundaries, across the globe. We're able to connect with people that we get along with and that we like a lot of the same things that they like. For example, maybe your interest is model railroads, okay? Well, if you're really into model railroads, well, thanks to social media and the internet, you can actually find other people who like model railroads, form an interest group, and you can actually be talking together. Now, the problem with this is that becomes a little bit of an echo chamber, because when you get a lot of like-minded individuals together, there's nobody from the outside saying, hey, you guys are going off the rails. You've got like this weird idea here that doesn't conform with everything else, in what everybody else is talking about in reality. And I think this is how you get some of these really crazy ideas that come about. Like, for example, famous one would be like the flat earthers, that there's actually people on the internet that are openly talking about how they really believe that the earth is flat. And I know this is like a couple years ago, when this was like big, but it's still no less distressing, right? That you could have something that is so obvious, a scientific fact, that the world is round. I mean, all you have to do is fly internationally. Okay? Fly across the Pacific Ocean and tell me that the world isn't flat, or isn't round, right? Tell me the world isn't round. And yet some people try to do it. So it's pretty obvious. You can actually see the curvature of the earth when you're flying over the ocean. It's pretty obvious, okay? Now, not to beat a dead horse, the point being is you can easily go off the rails when you connect with like-minded people on the internet. And so here's what's happened in our culture is you have people on the right, people on the left. They've basically sequestered themselves to the point where they're not looking at the other sources. It's really easy to do. It's echo chambers, right? So when you come together, there's almost like this animosity and this hate for the left or the right. Now, here's the solution. Find your friends or other people who are not of your political persuasion and talk with them. Talk with them openly. Ask them their opinions. Find out what they believe. You might be surprised to find that you have a lot in common with them, that they actually believe a lot of the same things that you do. You might actually find that you like them. It's weird. Now, again, I'm disgusted by some of the things that the far left has, done and said. And I'm sure a lot of them are disgusted by what right-wingers do. But I think if we're going to get anywhere, I think we need to be having more conversations with one another and hopefully get over this. One more thing that I really like to put forward. It's very distressing to me that it seems like there's a disconnect on the things that we're actually reading, the things that we're studying. So, for example, or if we're not even studying at all, that's... when it comes down to the intellectual basis on which we build our belief systems, there is an utter lack of knowledge on the left of what the right believes. They have a caricature of what the right believes. Now, I also think a similar effect is happening on the right to the left, and they don't really understand each other. And so here's my thought. And this is my challenge to anybody who watches this video, is for those on the right, read some Karl Marx, read some Nietzsche, read some read some of the leftist literature, study it out, learn what it actually says. And why do I say that? So that you can know what your leftist friends are thinking. And for those on the left, same thing. Maybe read the Bible. Maybe read some John Locke. Maybe read some Montesquieu. Maybe read the Federalist Papers. Maybe brush up on the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. It might just help you understand a bit more of where the right is coming from. If you're looking for a more modern source, you might even look into, reading some Milton Friedman or some Friedrich Hayek. There's a lot of different sources that you can read that oppose your own views. And this is something that I think is actually a general statement in general. And I was actually just driving my daughter to her college dorm. She came home for the weekend, but she doesn't have a car, so normally she takes the train, but because of the snowstorm that you can see that's coming down right now, there was a little bit of concern that it was going to be a bit messy if she had to take the bus from the train station to be able to get to her dorm. And so, I thought it'd be nice. It's a holiday. Didn't have to be at work today. So, I drove her down. Well, while we were driving down, we had a great conversation. And one of the topics that came up was this idea of questioning everything. Now, I think this is a very important principle. We need to question everything, even God. Obviously, for our friends on the left, a lot of them are atheists. They probably question God anyways. So for them, I would say, question your atheism. Now, why do I say that? Whatever your core beliefs are, you need to be questioning those and constantly challenging them. You need to be constantly studying and reading and learning. And why do I say that? Because how in the world can you defend your own position if you don't even know the reason why some people disagree with your opinion? So even if you're pretty convinced, as am I, that the free market is better than a non-free market, for example, communism. If you've watched my videos long enough, you know that I despise communism. I think it is an evil system. Now, why do I think that? I've got a lot of reasons. Now, if you are one of these people who thinks that communism is maybe a cool idea, okay, well then you need to challenge yourself and study stuff like Milton Friedman. You need to study stuff like Friedrich Hayek. You need to study stuff like The Forgotten Man by Amity Shlaes, which is a great book, by the way. You need to study things like John Locke and Montesquieu, right? Adam Smith. You need to challenge yourself with these works. Now, if you're on the right and you are so convinced that your beliefs are right, okay, well, now you also need to read the Communist Manifesto. You need to read some Nietzsche. You need to read some Marx, some Engels. You need to read some Freud and other leftist thought. Maybe some of the postmodernists. Some of the French school of postmodernists. I'm drawing a blank right now. I think it's Diderot, or Foucault is another one. Read some of these. You need to challenge yourself, right? Because if you're not challenging yourself with the opposite opinions, with things that disagree with what you believe in, then how are you going to know? One of the recent examples that I could say that I read was a book by actually, the most recent example of one that I read was I reread the Communist Manifesto. Why did I read it again? Well, because I wanted to understand better what I'm fighting against. Now, as I read through it, it only further refined my feelings. It only further reinforced that I don't like communism. I really don't like it. Now, I also read the Bible. I also read, things that agree with my opinions. And, and obviously there's some things in the Bible that I disagree with, And so, and I know that's kind of scary for a Christian to say something like that. But my response to that is, read the Songs of Solomon. You'll understand what I mean. It's not that the Songs of Solomon are necessarily pornographic, but they are. I'm just saying. So, not everything in the Bible is holy, and you have to study it out and question it and ask God. And when I say ask God, for the atheists among you, here's what I would say to you. When I say ask God, I don't necessarily mean pray to Jesus. What I mean by that is, in each one of us, we have what Jordan Peterson refers to as the Logos, right? Logos, or the Word, God, as in it's the higher functions in the brain. So if you don't want to believe in a magical sky god that, is going to save us from all our sins, that's fine. Whatever. You don't have to. But what you could do is you could look at, does it meet the rationality? Does it actually meet the scientific method? Does it follow logic and reason? That's God. God is reason. God is logic. God is the Word, as it says in the Gospel according to John. There's a reason why Christianity actually forms the basis of the modern world, even if you're not Christian. It's the fundamental understanding of the way that our minds work in relationship to the reality that's around us. And like I said, you don't have to believe in Christianity, but you should at least appreciate its contribution to the modern world and how it has actually allowed for us to progress from the feudalistic societies of the past, wherein you had basically slave owners. What were lords and serfs, right? Other than the serfs were slaves to the lords, the landowners, so to speak. To come to the point where now, in modern America, there's still a majority of people who are actually landowners. The majority of people in this country still are free, and they don't owe their existence to somebody else who they have to pay rent to. Now, granted, you could be a renter in a situation where you're renting from a landlord, but you're still free and you still have rights. And that's one of the key distinctions between the feudalist society, which, honestly, communism is actually just a form of feudalism, if you really think about it, even though they try to claim that they're an advanced stage of socialism beyond capitalism. But the truth is, the way communism actually behaves when it gets practiced by any country that's ever done communism is you have some elite at the top, the party bosses basically, who basically own and control everything, and then everybody else is basically slaves to them. So it is a form of feudalism in that regard. So if we get back to the subject at hand, like I said, the nature of reality is something that we have to question. We have to question it fiercely. Question even the very existence of God. And then pray about it. Now, pray, what does that mean? Meditate. Meditate. Like, think about it. Don't just believe something because it comes from somebody who you think might be an authoritative source. Because, for example, the New York Times always sells itself as trying to be the paper of record, that they are the truth. But it's been proven quite often that they lie. So, are they really an authoritative source? Well, like I said, question everything. Question even the Bible. Pray about it, man. Like, if you believe this crap, if you believe in communism, that crap, then pray about it. Think about it. Really ponder about it and ask yourself, is this really true? Challenge it from all sides. I think I'm belaboring the point at this point in the conversation, but I really want to express this. There are too many people just accepting whatever it is, and they're not questioning. If we really want to move on, if we really want to move beyond the insanity of 2020, the ridiculous stupidity that was 2020, if we really want to make 2021 a year where we are now free from the horrors of 2020, then we need to question everything. We need to stop just accepting things as is. And with that, I leave you for another day. I'm hoping to start doing more regular videos. I haven't decided on a schedule yet, but I do really enjoy doing this. I enjoy sharing my thoughts and my ideas with people. And hopefully you'll drop some comments. And, if you're watching this, I want to hear your opinions. I want to be challenged. I just told you to challenge yourself, so you challenge me, okay? There's the deal. And if you do like my stuff, if you do like my content, go ahead, hit subscribe. And if you're on Rumble, give me a Rumble, all that stuff. I know it's kind of cheesy. And like I said, I'm not doing it to make any money off of this. This is really just a passion project of mine. My real line of work is I'm an architect, and I design buildings. And occasionally, I'm also going to try to do more architectural content. I do find it's a little bit harder to find my groove when talking about that, because it's not as fun for me to talk about that because I talk about it all the time at work and I'm thinking about it all the time. And so thinking about philosophy and history and politics and all this stuff is kind of an escape for me from the conversation that I have at work about architecture. But I will try to introduce some more content as I go forward. Like I said, thank you again for watching, and again, I'm the Colorblind Architect. Peace out.